it's DrayYoutube584. This year, I've started studying how we talk with no thought all the time. So I wondered what we were doing with our mouths when we produced each sound in our speech. So I did my research, and I was able to learn by watching these teachers on YouTube and looking at IPA charts. So I decided to make two charts myself. One shows how consonants are produced, and the other shows the vowels. But I decided to do mine uniquely. The two that I did are probably going to be easier for people who don't know much about this stuff to understand than the IPA charts you'll see on the internet. I don't normally make educational videos, but this is something I thought about doing for a while now. I'm going to be going over the consonants first. If you take a look here, you'll see that we have a table. The x-axis shows what two ends you use to produce the sound, while the y-axis shows how much the sound is constricted and how it's released. If a sound is written in bold, that shows it's a voiced sound. The first group of sounds involves putting two ends together and then releasing air out the mouth. As a result, you'll hear a quick sound. The technical name for these sounds are plosives or stops, because you stop the airflow by meeting two ends and suddenly release the air. Starting on the left, we have a pair of sounds that where you put your lips together like this and force air out. I'll try it now. P. You heard a p sound, as in pie. But if you voice at the same time, you'll get a b sound, as in bear. The next two sounds have the speaker putting their tongue up to the ridge behind their teeth, known as the alveolar ridge, and releasing air. A d sound involves buzzing of the vocal cords, while t does not. When either of these sounds occur before a vowel at the middle or end of a word before an unstressed syllable, it'll become more of a quick flap sound, as in the word butter. Over here now, we have two sounds that involve the back of your tongue making contact with your throat, and then releasing the air. The part of your throat that the back of your tongue will touch is known as the soft palate, or velum. We have a k, as in car, unvoiced, and g, as in good, voiced. Something that all the sounds I just mentioned have in common is that sometimes when they're at the end of a word, you'll still hear the sound, but there will be no audible release of the sound. There will be no audible release of the air. This most frequently occurs with the t sound. What I mean is that instead of saying the word that, like how I just said it, we'll often just go that. Now finally, we have this one. When you produce this sound, you stop the airflow by putting your vocal folds together. You'll hear this when you say the double T in button. You'll usually make this sound when a T occurs before another consonant, like if you say Batman. The next group of consonants also involve releasing air, but you don't completely meet two ends. For some of these sounds, there may be partial touching of two ends, but it won't completely stop the airflow. This group of consonants are known as fricatives, because you're creating friction by breathing through a narrow space in between the two ends you put near each other. Unlike the previous group of sounds, you can carry them on. You'll see what I mean. Doing this type of sound with your top teeth and bottom lip will result in either a voiceless f sound or a voiced v sound. When I said these groups to consonants, doing this type of sound with your top teeth and bottom lip will result in either a voiceless f or a voiced v. When I said these groups of consonants are continuous, I mean that you can drag them on like this. When you put your hand on your neck, you can feel the vibrations for v. but nothing for th. Same thing goes with all other pairs of voiced and unvoiced phonemes. For the next pair, you put your tongue in between your teeth and breathe out through that gap. They're both spelled with TH, but the difference is that it's unvoiced in the word think and voiced in the word the. The sounds s and z are similar in a way to t and d, except you only make near contact instead of full contact on the ridge of your teeth with your tongue. When you make these two sounds in particular, as well as the next two I'll go over, you should lightly clench your teeth to say them correctly. S, z. Now try putting your tongue near the high roof of your mouth, known as the hard palate. Lightly clench your teeth and release the air. You'll either get a sh, as in shoe, or zh, as in measure. For zh, I had to use a word with the sound in the middle, since our language doesn't use that sound at the beginning of words. All the way on the end is h, which involves air coming out of the vocal folds. This is basically the same as a regular breathing sound. And your mouth could be in any shape when you say it. The shape of your mouth is usually the sound that comes after it, like when you say hot. When I was a little kid, I struggled with this group of consonants the most. For most of these sounds, I would either change them to other sounds or use a sound in speech that doesn't even exist. Anyways, let's move on to the next group of sounds. These sounds are interesting. They start with the sound up here, a stop, and follow it with the sound here, a fricative, in the same position to make a new sound, and it kind of merges it into one. The technical name for these consonants are affricates. We have two of them in English. When we make a ch sound, we begin with a t, except we make it with our tongue on the roof of our mouth instead of the ridge behind your teeth. After that, we immediately make a sh sound. As a result, you'll get a ch sound, as in cheese. Now try making a d sound using your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And then immediately follow it with zh. You'll get a j sound, as in jump. Technically, when you say a plural word like cats or ads, we are doing one of these sounds in this position. But they're not on this chart because they don't make a distinct phoneme that's meant to be a part of the English language. The consonants in these groups down here are different from the ones above. Rather than articulating the sound through pushing air out of your mouth, they're made through vibration of the voice alone, which means that all of these sounds are voiced. The first group involves making total contact between two ends, like the first group of sounds that we went over, except they're made through voice instead of air. Because you're stopping the airflow by making contact with two ends, the sound will actually come out of your nose instead of your mouth. That's why they're called nasals. When you put your lips together and voice out, you'll get an sound, as in map. And like I said, it'll come out of your nose. Try making this sound while pinching your nose. It's impossible because if you're closing off your mouth and your nose, the sound has nowhere to come out of. It's the same thing with the other two sounds in this group. When you make the n sound, as in no, you're putting your tongue up where you make a t or a d, and you voice out. The final sound of this group is that N you make in the back when you say words like ring. Your tongue curls back until it makes contact with your throat, like if you say a k or a g. and then release. For this next group of consonants, we have another group that are made through vibration of the voice alone. But like the second group I put down on this table, you put two ends near each other but not actually touching. These three sounds are the closest consonants we have to being vowels, as they work in some of the same ways. The technical name for this group of sounds are approximants. Starting off, if you put your lips close to each other without touching and voice out, you'll get a w sound, as in the word what. To produce an sound, as in red, you put your tongue closer to that alveolar ridge than anything else and voice out. You may have noticed that the symbol for this is an upside down R. That's because a regular R IPA will be a trilled R sound, which we don't have in English. Now, if you put your tongue near the roof of your mouth while you voice out, you'll get a Y sound, as in yes. Don't let the J symbol confuse you. That symbol means a Y sound in IPA transcription. Sometimes, especially in informal speech, when certain consonants come before the sound, it merges into one. D merges into J. T merges into Ch. And S merges into Sh. For example, would you go there becomes would you go there. That's totally normal if you do that. It's a way that we subconsciously simplify our speech due to the phonetics of the sounds. Finally, we've got the ul sound, as in love, down here. It's much like the sound, except with that one, your tongue doesn't actually touch the alveolar ridge. With ul, you touch it with the middle of your tongue, and only the sides of your tongue don't touch. Ul and sound similar because they're approximate sounds that occur in the same place. Only is a regular approximant and ul is a lateral approximant. That's what a sound in this group is called, and as you can see, ul is the only one that we have in English. Well, there you go. I hope this chart can be a reference to help you out if you're a little kid or a non-native English speaker and you struggle with any of these sounds. Now, let's move on to the vowels. I have another table chart right here that shows how all the different vowels are articulated. The y-axis shows how much you open your mouth while making the sound, and the x-axis shows the position of your lips. As your tongue goes lower in your mouth will automatically open more and more, and as you pull your tongue from front to back, your lips will go from spread to rounded. For an additional note, rounded vowels in American English aren't rounded as heavily as they are in most other languages. But there is a third criteria for making distinct vowel sounds, which is whether your mouth and lips are relaxed or tense. The tense phonemes and words that have it are written in bold. There are some vowels that may add a W or a Y sound after it. They become something known as diphthongs, because you're making two sounds in the same vowel. Words that have a Y sound after the vowel will be highlighted in red, while the ones with a W sound after the vowel will be highlighted in blue. Without further ado, let's get started on this table. Let's start with the sound you get if you open your mouth just a little bit and spread your lips. If you try doing this in a quicker manner with less effort, you'll probably get an it sound, as in fish, because your tongue and lips are relaxed. But you'll get a different sound if you add tension to your tongue and lips. You'll get an E sound, as in street. They both use a letter I for the IPA transcription. but E uses a lowercase I and I uses a small capital I. But what if you round your lips while still opening your mouth only a little bit? If you say it with no tension, like with an I sound, you'll get an sound, as in book. But if you make sure you make a tense sound, like you would with E, while still having rounded lips, and a slightly open mouth, you'll get an oo sound, as in food. And both sounds most commonly use either a double O or a single U to represent their sounds. These next three squares below show sounds where you open your mouth a medium amount. If you do this while spreading your lips, you'll get an E sound, as in the word bed. But if you make that sound tense, you'll get an I sound. We don't normally use the tense version of the sound on its own in English. We normally follow it with a Y sound to make a diphthong, like when we say cake. But when this diphthong appears at the end of a word, we'll usually instead use the relaxed vowel E, as in the word day. Now we're in the middle of this chart, where your mouth is still open a medium amount, but your lips are neutral, meaning they're neither spread nor rounded. We have two versions of this sound. We have the strong as in truck, and the weak as in about. These two sounds are basically the same, except when you say truck, you're clearly pronouncing it, but when you say about, you're saying it in a short, lazier manner. But why do we have a weak version of the sound here, but nowhere else on the vowel chart? That's because it's right in the middle, so it takes the least effort to make these two sounds. So oftentimes, an unstressed syllable in a word will get reduced to the weak version of this sound. There's a special name for the weak version of this sound, which is the schwa sound. But if you have rounded lips while opening your mouth to the same extent as the previous two, you'll get the vowel O. But like we usually don't say this sound by itself in English. We usually diphthongize it by following it with a W, as in the word goat. This sound is normally tense, but like with the diphthong A, if you isolate this diphthong or say it at the end of a word, you'll say it in a more relaxed manner. Like if you say the word go. The single O sound by itself can also be added to a Y to make a new phoneme, as in the word join. The sound in the three squares down here involve the mouth of the speaker being opened wide. So when you produce these sounds, open your mouth as much as possible. If you do this while spreading out your lips, you'll get an A sound, as in the word cat. When this sound comes before certain words, especially if an M or an N comes after it, we might use the tense version of this sound. When you say the word man, for example, most of us use the tense version like I just did. The A sound can also come before W to make a diphthong, as in the word drought. Now, when you open your mouth wide and your lips are neither spread nor rounded, like with these two, you'll get an A sound, as in the word stop. You'll also hear the A sound before a Y and the diphthong you'll hear in the word line. Something I notice is that around here at least, we'll normally use the sound as the onglide when the I diphthong comes before a voiceless sound, like in the word life. Now try saying the ah sound with rounded lips. You'll hear an aw sound, as in the word dog. In that word, you see that aw is spelled with the letter O. But this sound is also commonly spelled with AU or AW. There you go. That's how we say all of our vowels every day. There are also a few consonants that when they precede certain vowels, they can sometimes make the vowel sound a little different. This especially occurs with certain vowels when they come before an L or an R sound. You might notice with some of them, if you try them yourselves, if you isolate the phonemes when an L or an R precedes them. When an R comes after one of the two mid-central vowels, it'll in fact merge into one new sound most of the time, like in the word bird or the word teacher. They'll become what we call a rhotic vowel. One last thing I'd like to point is that IPA charts usually use the vowels I and U at the end of diphthongs such as A and O, but I put them with W and Y sounds at the end because there's this phonetics teacher on YouTube named Dr. Jeff Lindsay who believes that it makes more sense to do it that way because it's proven with more evidence. So I decided to go with it. And that's it. I hope this video helped. Bye, guys.